All right, come on in and have a seat. Welcome, welcome on this beautiful sunny morning to Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living. I'm Reverend Mary Murray Shelton, the community spiritual leader here, and I want to welcome all of you and everybody online this morning who's joining us. Thank you for being part of our online congregation. We are a spiritual center that enjoys good weather, obviously. I can see that it may be that many people are out enjoying the good weather today. But we will welcome them as they come in, even those that are coming in a little bit late. This is the time, though, to go ahead and say good morning to each other. So welcome each other. Introduce yourselves to anybody you don't know. Make sure people are feeling welcome. So feel free to get up and move around and do that right now. And for those of you that are online, give yourselves a moment to take a deep breath, get another cup of coffee. We're going to come back together and sing the opening song with our live musical guests in just a moment. So hang in there with us. Take a moment to say hi to our musicians over here, too. Our guest musicians there. All right. We're very lucky this morning because we have live musicians. Yay! Vocalist Amy D. and vibraphone and pianist Dylan Vado co-lead Heart Matter. And they are the core duo, but sometimes they have 2 or 3 other musicians joining them as well. And they share a kinship that's built on trust, synergy, and honoring authentic expression. So they are San Jose natives, but living in Oakland right now, and we're delighted to have them here this morning. I know Amy said they've got some background in Centers for Spiritual Living communities. So we're going to sing a Ricky Byers song with them right now. So I'm going to invite you to please stand. This is Blessed Always, and the words are on the screen. Blessed always, blessed
always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say Amen. Blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say Amen. Blessed always, for the arms of God surround us. Let our joy be so triumphant that we rest in God and say Amen. That we rest in God and say Amen. That we rest in God and say Amen.
To be heard together and to meet our musicians. This is a time that we're going to begin to turn within to ground ourselves and become present as a community for the service this morning. So please silence your cell phones so that they won't interrupt the process today. And I'm going to invite prayer practitioner Marilyn Letsos up to lead us in the opening this morning.
Join me, will you, as I go deep within. As I go deep within myself, into that part of myself that always was and that always will be. The most authentic, the most real part of myself. Until I connect once again with that awareness that I am surrounded in love. That I go deep within myself until I find God, right there, breathing my breath, beating my heart. This one great life that is greening the entire world this morning in the sunshine of spring, of a new birth. And I feel this excitement because I am one with it, because it is everywhere. It is the life force. It is the infinite presence of the divine. It is consciousness itself. It is the source of everything. And it supplies most lavishly its creation. And so I turn into this power because it is the reality of my being. And as this is true for me, it is true for everyone. This power beating our hearts, showing us the way to more and more, guiding in that, with that still small voice of it, of inspiration, of intuition, showing me the way, showing each one the way. And so I speak my word this morning knowing that all is already given. I speak my word for myself and for each one who so chooses simply to allow every thought to align with the goodness that seeks expression through each one, which is pushing up, just like a mushroom pushes right through the concrete to emerge. That this power makes itself known in and through and as each one this morning, that each thought is realigned only to the highest and the best expectation. And this is called faith. And it can move mountains. And so I give thanks for this change in perspective. I give thanks for the realization that God the good, truly, everywhere, all power is all there is. And I can trust this goodness. Having released all fear, all doubt, all limiting thoughts, I and each one who so aligns am now aligned with the good that has no limits. And that I expect and know is the ongoing experience in every life with this alignment. And so now knowing that a new thought always creates a new experience, I accept that things have changed, that everything has shifted into a greater light. And without any further worry, I simply say, and so it is.
And so it is.
Amen.
Thank you, Marilyn. Heart matter.
Sure. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
We're excited to be bringing some of our original music to you today, and this is a song about coming into the present moment as much as you possibly can.
The sweet nectar of right here and right now, bubbling in the cool air and under my tongue, a honey sensation. Ooh. Fluttering wings brush past my ears, darting from branches to blossoms, the blink of an eye. I dare to keep time. Sweet as it is, yet fleeting, just out of my sight. Can I sit still with the sweetness of life? The fine fragrance of a young jasmine vine, telling the secret of hiding away until spring. Take me by surprise. Ooh. Someone listening with a Cheshire smile, sneaking around every corner or basking in sun. Don't mind my passing by. Sweet as it is, yet fleeting, just out of my sight. Can I sit still with the sweetness of life? Always a song in the air when the sun is on high. Molecules dancing through leaves remind me I'm alive. What is this rushing and waiting for something to happen when everything's happening just fine? Can I sit still? Can I be here? Should I keep time? Or am I alive? Can I sit still? Can I be here? Should I keep time? Or am I alive? Can I sit still? Can I be here? Should I keep time, or am I alive? With the sweetness, with the sweetness, with the sweetness, with the sweetness, with the sweetness of life.
Thank you.
Can we be still with the sweetness of life? You have to be present for that. You know? You can't be distracted and off into a million different things to be still with the sweetness of life. So tomorrow is Earth Day. It's also the beginning of Passover. So that's a lot of energy happening right now that we're entering into over this next 24 hours. A grand rising is the theme of the year, stepping into newness, stepping into ways that we haven't done things before, taking a look at what's possible. And this month we're talking about the power of prayer. So I've kind of been taking you, first of all, through prayer in general, and then last week I talked about when you're doing a spiritual mind treatment, what the first two steps are really about and what they feel like. And so today, I'm speaking about that third step. I told you last week I'd be saying more about it today. And opening up to change is the theme, because the third step is really about entering into the unknown in a new way, claiming the spiritual truth, which we don't know what it is exactly because we're not experiencing it yet in the way that we're wanting to call it in. Does this make sense? So, talking about what's familiar and doing things in a new way, I'm assuming that you know these old, proverbs. So this a first grade school teacher in Virginia had 25 students in her class, and she presented them with the first half of a proverb and asked them to provide the second half. So let's see how many of these you know. Strike while the bug is close, was the first grader's response. Strike while the bug is close. The second one, don't bite the hand that, don't bite the hand that looks dirty. Makes good sense. You can't teach an old dog new math. You can barely learn it yourself. If you lie down with dogs, you'll close now. If you lie down with dogs, this response was, if you lie down with dogs, you'll stink in the morning. I like that better. A penny saved is not much. And lastly, when the blind lead the blind, they both fall into the pit. It's a biblical thing. When the blind lead the blind, they both fall into the pit. The kids said, when the blind lead the blind, get out of the way. Now, Pearl Buck said, you can judge your age by the amount of pain you feel when you come in contact with a new idea. So, new ways of looking at proverbs that we think we know can make us laugh, can make us uncomfortable, can frustrate a teacher maybe that the kids don't know them if they're things they've already been taught. There is an aspect of opening up to change that is never comfortable. Change means stepping out of what's familiar and comfortable into that which is challenging and unknown. And yet that's what we're doing in prayer. That's actually the activity that we're entering into, that we're inviting into our experience. So I think that for most people who have any relationship to prayer at all, the idea is that prayer will bring them what they want, but nothing else will have to change. I sort of liken it to like putting on a hat. You figure, I'll just take this, I'll add it to my life, it'll be great. Everything else will be the same, and it'll just be better than it was before. But prayer is always about change. It takes some effort. It takes some desire in order to make a change. So we sometimes can feel like, in the midst of trying to make a change, like we're a butterfly tethered to a stone, right? And the process becomes then part of the experience of moving into the change. So when we step into this third step, I said last week that in the first two steps, we forget all about the problem. What we do is we have to know what the issue is that we're facing, and we have to know how we want to feel rather than what we're feeling now in relationship to that issue. Remember that? Some of you remember that? This is yes? Yes? Okay. And that once we know those things, we know what the issue is and how we'd like to feel instead, then we set that aside and we move into that place of actually entering into the experience of presence, of extending our awareness out into everything with the welcoming idea that the divine is all around us, not just outdoors in nature, but the very chair you're sitting in that's completely supporting you without asking for anything is the divine in form. It's as if you could imagine that your chair is God in disguise. So Ram Dass used to say, all of this is God in drag. It's just the infinite showing up as, and that is also true of us. So in that first step, we bring our awareness to the most magnificence that we can remember or imagine or feel our way into and what that felt like. And we savor the experience of it all around us. And then we remember too and remind ourselves that that is what we're made of too. It's not just all around, it's also the essence of who we are. It's more true about us than who we think we are. And from that place, in that consciousness, we declare and claim the spiritual truth. So we have to have an idea of what that would look and feel like differently than what the problem is. In that third step, we don't go into the problem except maybe to say to it, you have no power over me. I take back all of the power I've given you in believing that you were stronger than I am. And instead, I know this. And what we do is we claim the spiritual truth. So imagine that what your issue is, is that you're in a conflict in relationship with your boss, with your kids, with your parents. A little over 20 years ago, I was at a conference in Russia, a Science of Mind conference in Russia, and we had interpreters that worked with us. So we sat as practitioners for some of the people at the conference. And of course, the interpreters had to be able to listen to the Russian, convey it to us in English, and then listen to what we said and the treatment that we gave, and convey it in Russian to the people that were listening. And the interesting thing was that the majority of the Russian people who came to me for prayer, you know what they wanted? They wanted me to treat for their relationship with their mother. Humans are humans everywhere. We all deal with interpersonal issues. So say that the issue you're dealing with is a conflict with someone else. There's a lack of harmony. There's a lack of understanding, a lack of patience or willingness or respect or whatever it is. And you're feeling frustrated and angry and resentful and stuck. And that's what you want to change. So the danger in that is that we think that what we want to do is fix the other person. If they would just then it would be fine. Anybody ever have that thought in the back of your mind secretly? Yeah. If they would just get this, then everything would be fine. If they would just treat me better, then everything would be fine. You know, Byron Katie says that when we are doing that kind of work in questioning our own attachment to a particular belief, that as we question it, we want to begin to turn it around. Like what we think the other person should do, what if we were to say, I should be more understanding. I should listen to this person better. I should be more patient with this person. Not that we're trying to make it into a should contest, but that it has a different flavor when we turn it around and put the responsibility on ourselves instead of on the other person. So, when we're doing a treatment, we don't want to ever manipulate the other person. When we're doing a prayer for ourselves, it's always about us. So, what experience do I want to claim? What experience of this relationship do I want to implant in myself with such conviction that that becomes my experience of the relationship? What qualities then would I want this relationship to feel like? Well, I would want it to feel like peace, or I might want it to feel like respect, or I might want it to feel like collaboration and patience and welcoming and open-mindedness. Does this make sense? So if I am claiming that as the spiritual truth, that which is the essence of everything is the presence of God manifesting, that's true of this relationship too. But the spiritual truth of it is covered up because the two of us, or however many of us are involved in this issue, we have different ideas about who we are and what's going on that is more shallow than the truth of the spiritual reality. And as long as we're attached to that belief, that's what we're going to see and feel and experience, even though that's a temporary show. It's not the real truth underneath. So even while we're attached to all this appearance, we want to declare and claim what is true underneath it, even though we can't see it yet. Pearl Buck also said, growth itself contains the germ of happiness. In other words, that while we are shifting our belief, while we are dealing with that discomfort of inviting ourselves to claim something that we don't yet see and don't yet feel, but we want to, that the very process of doing that work can begin to set us free, can begin to feel like the real healing, that what's actually important there is the healing of our personal perspective and interpretation of this person and this experience, and the way that we're reacting to it and responding to it is based on that belief, which is in the way. Now, that's not to say that the other person or people don't have beliefs that are in their way, because all of us do. But that's not our concern, because the experience of that can change even if they don't. James Belasco and Ralph Steyer wrote a book called The Flight of the Buffalo, and in it, they said, change is hard because people overestimate the value of what they have and underestimate the value of what they may gain by giving that up, because we don't know what that is. So if I say in this relationship, I now recognize that the heart of this relationship is peace and harmony, mutual respect and love, and I know that when I come into contact with this person, this individual, these people, that my presence is grounded and anchored in that loving harmony and respect for all of us and for the process. And I further know that because that is the truth, my experience of this collaboration is transforming into that. And I claim it for myself right now, knowing that anything unlike that, anywhere in consciousness, is an illusion. and it is dissolved right now by the power of this word. So those of you that are old enough may remember that Arlo Guthrie once said, you got to sing this song with enthusiasm, all right? So Raymond Charles Barker used to say, speak your word with authority. Don't be meek about it. Don't be wishy-washy. Speak it with authority. This is where the affirmations go. In this section of your prayer, right in the middle, you are affirming the spiritual truth. If you were already experiencing it, you wouldn't need to affirm it because it's already happening. If it's not happening yet, then there's something in our own consciousness that is blocking that. And we take responsibility with ourselves first. Are you with me here? Yes? Ivy Baker Priest said, the world is round, and the place which may seem like the end may also be the beginning. Sometimes things have to break down before they can be repaired. They have to really fall apart before they can be repaired. So sometimes the crisis is the exact turning point that we needed most. It may be that in order to appreciate home, the best transportation for Dorothy was the balloon. That was what she needed, even though it took her to a place that was completely unfamiliar, where she had no idea who had power, who didn't, what she was supposed to do, who to trust, how to do stuff there. And yet, when she awakened to the idea that she missed her home and valued it, everything was different. God bless you, Tinman. Everything was different when she went back. It's like the story I've mentioned before of Ram Dass saying he'd gone to a meditation retreat, and as he was unpacking his bunk for the retreat, he was introducing himself to his bunk mate or his roommate who was going to be in the bunk above him. And he asked him what the guy did, and the guy said, I'm the vice president of industrial loans for the bank. And Ram Dass said, really? How do you come to be here on a meditation retreat? And the man said, well, a lot of years ago, now this happened a long time ago, remember? A lot of years ago, I was vice president of industrial loans for the bank, and it seemed like everybody was having more fun than me. So I quit my job. I moved up into the mountains to a commune. I took drugs, I threw pots, I did meditation, and things changed. And one day, I was back in the city walking along, and the president of the bank happened to pass me on the street. And he came back and he said, wow, it's amazing I should run into you. He said, you were the best vice president of industrial loans I ever had. And that job is open again. Why don't you come back to work for us? And he said, I thought, why not? So I bought a tie and I went back to the bank. And Ram Dass said, well, that's amazing. Is it any different for you now than it was before? And he said, oh, it's entirely different. He said, before, I was the vice president of industrial loans for the bank. Now, I go to this place, and I hang out with these people all day, and the vehicle for us being together is industrial loans. Nothing had changed in the job. His perspective on what it was all about had changed, and that was what made all the difference for him. Does this make sense? The circumstances don't have to be what changes. They might be. There was an interim in there for him when his circumstances changed, but it was the transformation of his perspective that changed his experience in that place. Alan Cohen said once, the purpose of prayer is not to change God's mind, which always knows your wholeness and your deservingness. The purpose of prayer is to change your mind so you can see through the eyes of God. So in order for us to do that, we have to do our prayer work. And it's called work because it requires focus and practice, actual practice. So in order to claim the change of ourselves that we're actually looking for, we have to have the desire for something to be different. Otherwise, we would never bother. We have to have the intention to actually shift, that we have a conscious intention to shift. And then we have to have a willingness to change. So if we go to a practitioner for prayer about an issue in our lives, they're going to know that spiritual truth for us because we may be too attached to allow ourselves to see it. But we have to be willing to let their prayer work anchor itself in consciousness in such a way that we are open to what it calls us into, which will be change. It will be change. So we have to have that willingness, and then we have to put in the effort. We either have to do the homework, the practitioner gives us an affirmation or something else, or we have to do the prayer work. And sometimes when we're teaching it, we call it prayer work, meaning there is intention, there is practice, there is effort, there is time involved in it, just like the work this butterfly is doing to get itself free. So we are moving with willingness into that work, whether we're going to a therapist or a counselor, whether we are doing physical exercise or we're addressing our health, physical or mental health, or we're going to a practitioner or some other kind of counselor. That's our personal inner work. You know, so Passover starts tomorrow. The Passover is when the Israelites were leaving their captivity in Egypt. And the firstborn, the very last of the 10 plagues that affected the Egyptians, the firstborn are being taken. And God says to the Israelites, you must eat this, and when you butcher it, take the blood and put it on your doorposts and the lintel above, and this is how you have to eat it and who you eat it with, and you can't have any left over. And this will be the feast of the unleavened bread, and you're to remember this and pass it on to your children. But the blood was to signal to God, or the angel of death, depending on where you're reading it, was to signal that they were the Hebrew nation, so they would be passed over by this plague, and their firstborn would not die. So that happened. And Pharaoh said, get out, go, leave. And the Egyptians were like, go, before everything goes, go, and take our valuables, take anything you want, just go, just get out of here. So they did. And then, of course, by the time they got to the water, Pharaoh had kind of come to his senses and said, what the heck are we doing? Go get those people and bring them back. We need the work done. So, do you think the Israelites were happy to be free as they left? No, they were terrified. Now they saw Pharaoh's guys coming after them. They were freaked out. They said, let's go back. It wasn't so bad. Better than being killed by the Egyptians. Better than being drowned in the water. And Moses had to, part the waves to let them go through so they actually could escape. They were resisting their own freedom because they were scared. Because what they had to do next was more scary than living in captivity. They weren't welcoming that work that went into setting themselves free. And tomorrow is also Earth Day. You know, becoming more eco-conscious, that's not convenient. It's not easy. Sometimes it's more expensive. Looking at how to reduce the use of plastics, it's a big deal if you think about the things that you buy that are wrapped or sealed or encased or in plastic containers. They're just endless. So it's not easy. It's not convenient. It's not fun necessarily. And yet, we can see what the outcome is if we don't take those steps. So are we more afraid of being uncomfortable or inconvenienced and not willing to make the change now that we know the change needs to be made? See, this is the big stuff that's going on in the world that's just like the resistance that we have to the small stuff, that we don't want to give this person the benefit of the doubt because they've been so mean to us, and they really should get a clue, right? But that's not how prayer works. And so we are entering into a different kind of opening up to change. I love this little cartoon. It says, to the minister. This is like the board meeting with the minister, the congregation. We're hoping you'll lead us on a journey of transformation without requiring any real changes. A transformation. But we don't want to change anything, right? And a lot of times it seems like that's what we go to practitioners hoping that they'll do for us, that they're going to fix this and nothing will have to change. But of course, something does have to change. So what is it that changes? Well, it might be the situation, which is certainly what we would like to have changed the most in most of these cases, is the situation itself. Just fix this for me and everything will be fine. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes what changes is our reaction to the situation. We choose and grow into behaving differently in the situation. And as we respond to it differently, the situation can't help but change. But it may be changing only in our perception. So, when we recognize that our reaction to a situation may be changing or may need to change, it's kind of the reflection of the serenity prayer, really. God grant me the serenity to what? Accept the things I cannot change, right? The courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The wisdom to know the difference. So what can I change? What's within my power to change? My words, my attitudes, my thoughts, my responses. Those are within my power to change. It isn't comfortable, it's not necessarily easy, but there is power in doing it. And of course, the last thing that might change is we ourselves. Carolyn Schroeder said, some people change their ways when they see the light, others when they feel the heat. And Jean Houston said, our wounding tells us that old forms are ready to die, however reluctant the local self may be to have this occur. The wounding becomes sacred when we are willing to release our old stories and to become vehicles through which a new story may emerge into time. And Ernest Holmes, our founder, said, healing is not creating perfection. There is a perfect part of us that is whole. So we don't heal anything. We reveal that which is already whole. In other words, we're getting, as Emerson said, our bloated nothingness out of the way. We're getting our false idea out of the way so we can perceive. And even if nothing out there changes, if our inner experience of life becomes peaceful and grounded and loving and whole, we'll be pretty happy wherever we are, no matter what's going on, even if nobody else gets it. And people will start coming to us saying, I want what you have. What's going on with you? What do you know that I need to know? And that sort of thing. So, anybody ever feel like your attempts at change are kind of like this girl trying to drag her pug wherever it is they're trying to go? You know, the mind that has developed habits is very persistent in coming back again and again to the old ways of thinking, because our brain geography has already adapted itself to make that easier for us. We've repeated it so much that it's almost automatic now. And what we have to do is intervene in that and do it differently. Just like those proverbs. Has anybody ever had a friend who has changed their name, what you call them, their first name, has changed their name? And how has it been adapting to that? Did you just switch over like right away with no difficulty? No, half the time you're calling them by the wrong name, right? And then you have to apologize and back up and try to remember again what it's supposed to be. It is not comfortable. And that's a pretty small thing to ask, that somebody just change the name they call them by. So what we want to be able to do then is to overcome the resistance in ourselves. And there are some ways that we can do that. One way that we can do that is to trick ourselves. I found once that, and this was a long time ago, that I didn't like making the bed, that I would put it off and be crabby about it. Now, some people don't even bother to make their beds, but I grew up in a household where my mother said it makes it look like you don't care, so you will make your bed. And now I can't leave the bed unmade without feeling guilty, but I didn't want to do it. Now, Amanda does it now, so I don't have to, but that's beside the point. At that time, I was making the bed, and I didn't want to make the bed, and so I thought, this is ridiculous. What can I do that I like at the same time that would distract me from that I don't want to do this so that it becomes easier or more fun? And so I put on a television program on the TV in the bedroom that was something I liked, that I had recorded. I put that on, and the bed got made in no time, and I didn't even notice it because I was just enjoying whatever was going on. I had to trick myself into it in order to do it. So I had to really think about what is one way I could do this that would make it fun to do. On the rare occasions now when I do make the bed, I don't feel that way about it anymore. Oh, my earrings are just clacking. I'm apologizing to those of you that are hearing this online. Also, we can arrange a way to remind ourselves. So you can set a timer to go off once an hour, however often, to check in with your thoughts. What am I thinking right now? And can I reverse this thought to make it like what I want to claim? You have to intervene in your daily habits in order to wake yourself up to this new thing you want to claim. And sometimes you have to do something to remind yourself. You might put little Post-it notes around. You might set a timer. Those are some of the ways to do that. You might create a schedule for yourself so you know you're going to do this at the same time every day. And have those handy little prompts around you where you can see them, brightly colored something on the mirror in the bathroom. Eventually, you would tune it out so you don't see it. But at the beginning, you'll notice it every time you go in the bathroom. So while it's still being effective, use that to remind yourself to take 1 minute to think that thought in the way that you want to claim it. And just practice saying yes to the things that you want to resist, that you want to say no to. Because the more you say yes in the moment of that little bit of resistance, the more you say yes anyway, the easier it gets to meet your resistance with a yes instead of a no, I won't. I'm not going anywhere. You're going to have to pick me up and carry me. So instead, we practice, okay, I will do that this one time. It's kind of like one day at a time. If you're in recovery, you don't think about the days that stretch out. That's useless. The only day you're in is this one right now, this minute right now. Make this choice at this minute on this day, and don't worry about the rest of it. Then the next time your timer goes off, make the choice in this minute. Don't worry about the minutes coming up. Just make the choice now. That's that 1 degree of shift that allows that ship crossing the ocean or the plane flying to stay on track to where it's going, to where it's heading. And then we want to recognize any progress that we make. So when we notice that we're feeling a little differently about it, wow, that's great. That's moving in the right direction. Okay, I got it. It's happening. This is good. And then you have to be willing to start again and again and again, because it's likely that just like changing the name of your friend, you will find yourself doing the old thing, the old habit, and you have to intervene somehow. Regroup afterward or stop yourself in the middle or whatever it is, and congratulate yourself for being aware that that was happening. In a Holmes Reader on change, Ernest Holmes said, we should realize that any evil, any lack, any limitation, or any negation whatsoever which has appeared in our experience, will disappear as soon as we no longer contemplate it, think about it, or give it power by believing in it. It withers away by non-use. This is a law of nature, use or lose. Moreover, recognizing that any particular negation no longer has power robs it of the power which it appeared to have. In doing this, we're not pitting one power against another, we're merely using the one power in the right way. So one of the things to be aware of with this third step, as you're declaring all of this, is it's not up to you to do it. That's not your job at all. What we need to do is know how we want to feel, not how we're going to get there. We want to know what we want to experience, not how it's going to show up and what it's going to look like exactly. We want to let the creative law that's flowing through us all the time do that work. But we want to give it clear direction. So when we speak our word with authority and we claim the spiritual truth, then we can move into the end part of the prayer, which I'll talk about next week. But I want to share a little story with you here to wrap this up. There's an old story about a king who had a beautiful, priceless ring and 3 sons. And all 3 of his sons wanted to inherit that ring when he passed away. And so they all wanted to prove to their father they were worthy of the ring. But when the king died, he left his sons 3 identical rings. So each of them got one of these identical rings. And he left a note that said, "My dear sons, one of these rings is the genuine one, and 2 are copies. The way you'll know which of you has the real ring is that the son who wears it will be kind and generous to all people." And so the sons spent the rest of their lives being kind to everyone they came in contact with to prove they had the real ring. When we shift something in consciousness, it shifts us. It shifts our perspective and our behavior. All we have to do is shift our belief, and that is within our power to do. So you've got the beginning now to the key. Now you'll see, if you're looking at the Science of Mind textbook, you'll see that Ernest Holmes only ever did, really, 3 steps in treatment. The first 2 that I talked about last week, and this step. The rest of it kind of came automatically in what he was doing. It was sort of implied. We do it very specifically now. But so you have the key now to begin. You know what the first 2 steps feel like. You've got the general idea of the structure of the third step. You want to say it always in the present tense, not "this will happen" or "this is going to occur," but "this is happening now. This is occurring now." So use those ing words in there instead of will have, is going to have, is about to have. I am having this now. I am welcoming this now. I am accepting, claiming, knowing. Speak it as if it's already done, rather than you're waiting for something. Because when we speak it as if we're waiting for it, then the law makes us wait, because it thinks that's what we're asking for. It's going to be, it isn't here. No, we don't want it to be going to be, and we're always going to be. We want it to be here now. So we claim it as if it is here now. The law gets that. Then we let it go so it has a chance to show up as it will, and when it will, and how it will. And we'll talk more about that next week. So right now, take the key you have and play with that this week. You may unlock a door you didn't realize could ever be unlocked. Let's see what happens. Namaste. Thank you. Now, I want to invite you to turn within as we anchor this in prayer. So, knowing in this moment that there is one presence, one power, one life, manifesting everywhere as everything right now, knowing that, I also know that all of it is also right where I am, showing up as me. And what is true of me is true of all of us. So I speak this word for all of us in this room, for all of us online. And I recognize right now that our minds are opening, our hearts are softening. Our belief system is welcoming change in all good ways, claiming newness now, stepping into it with confidence, with faith, with peace. We stand tall knowing that this is the truth, and it always has been the truth of the essence of who we are forever and ever. So we claim it in our lives right now. We allow space for it, we open to the change, and we delight in the unfoldment. With great gratitude, we release this prayer into the creative law, letting it go and letting it be. And we claim it as we say together, and so it is. Yes. Please stand and join me in the morning affirmation. I declare the spiritual truth of myself and my life boldly. I accept more good today than I have ever experienced before. I'm eager to change, to make room for more blessings in my life, and I do so with focus and determination now. And so it is. Thank you. You may be seated. And I'd like to invite the ushers to come forward now, and Heart Matter to come forward. We're preparing to receive our sacred offering time. If you're online and you'd like to make a donation via text this morning, that number is up on the screen and you can see it now. And for those that are here, there are all manner of ways to contribute. And if you are on automatic tithing, that's also great. And we want to bless all of the gifts that are being given today and have been given throughout the week, including the gift of your presence. So please hold your gift, and if it's just you this morning, you are the gift. Hold your hands over your heart as we speak this word of blessing together. This gift I give is God in action. I now send it forth to bless and to prosper. I know that everywhere it goes, it is creating a world living in love, one heart and one thought at a time, and so it is. Please go ahead. Heart Matter, it's all yours.
Over the horizon line, falling in and out of time. As the story ends, I'm hanging on. Nothing left to hold on to, looking for a trace of you in the tallest trees and every song. Just the thought brings raindrops to flood the driest eyes. Can you hear me calling in the dark of night? Or maybe this is foolish to call from miles away. Am I alone in longing? What would you say? Over the horizon line, find another life. As I rush, the sun is nearly gone. reaching for a distant shore, an open door. Did I lose myself in wanting more? Just the thought brings raindrops to flood the driest eyes. Can you hear me calling in the dark of night? Or maybe this is foolish to call from miles away. Am I alone in longing? What would you say? Is my imagination telling lies? Or is there something to the madness? Is my imagination running wild? Or is it you too? Is it you too? Over the horizon line, falling in and out of time. As the story ends, I'm hanging on. Thank you.
Great. I'll come back to that. So right now, all of us together, on behalf of Golden Gate Center for Spiritual Living, do accept this offering with great gratitude. And we send it out into the world to seed that change that allows us to come together in love. And so it is. So a few quick announcements. If you're here for the first time this morning, I want to draw your attention to the table here at the back. There are all sorts of handouts and magazines back there. Feel free to take some with you. And please pick up a welcome packet. Amanda's holding it up back there. There's a blue card in there. Fill that welcome card out and give it to her, and she will give you a copy of a little book called Nourishing Thoughts, which is our thank you for being here today and our invitation to you to come back again and be with us in the future. We'd love to get to know you. And for those of you that have been on duty today, the guys that are putting together our brunch, and I want to especially acknowledge, although they're not visible right now, well, Karen is, the Frost family's wonderful altar this morning that's dedicated to Earth Day. There are little houses up there. There's a money plant. And there are 2 spider plants that Karen got when they first moved to Santa Rosa, who came into the service to be blessed, and now they're back just to share their blessing with us. So come up and enjoy this beautiful altar. And let's thank everyone who's been involved in making this day so great. Especially, let's thank Amy and Dylan, Heart Matter, also for being here with us today. So the men's brunch is this morning, and I want to say one thing about this, and then we're going to come back to this in just a second, but this is available right after the service. Hang on to that thought for just a second. I also want to encourage you to talk to Ellen Nicosia this morning if you're interested in participating in our sacred service at the food bank at the warehouse in San Rafael on May 14th from noon to 2. Ellen's right here in the front. Give a wave, Ellen. You can talk to her this morning or send her a text or a voicemail message to let her know you'd like to be part of the team. Now, if I go back to, well, maybe that won't work. Let's see what happens here. Yes. Christine, would you come up for just a second here? By the way, we sang happy birthday to all of our April people at the beginning of the month, which we always do, but today is Jerry's birthday. Christine, come up here so the people online can see you too.
That was yesterday.
Oh, his birthday was yesterday. Well, sorry. Happy birthday.
Surprise. So I woke up at
Let's do it this way.
I'm sorry, I woke up at 4:30 yesterday morning, and I had this great idea. Why don't we do a birthday party? This is my Sunday family. So here we go, your prayer's answered. You got a free lunch. And this is as well honoring Bob, whose birthday is coming up, and Amanda, so April babies. And the other reason is on June 2nd, 28 years ago, Jerry and I met the first time sitting next to each other
Right here.
in this building. 28 years. And last but not least, you already got the thank you for all the volunteers, but every Sunday we have these incredible people everywhere donating their time and effort. So enjoy your lunch. Thank you.
So in case that wasn't clear to you, Christina's paying for everyone's lunch today, for the brunch. So you're all invited to stay and enjoy the brunch and celebrate the birthdays and the volunteers together. And isn't that a lovely, lovely gift to receive? All right, so the last thing I want to mention is the prayer table and the practitioners. They're available after the service. You'll have plenty of time for lunch, so go ahead, have a prayer. Thank the practitioners for being on duty. We have Dana, Selma, and Karen over there this morning. They're going to knock your socks off. And if you're at all resistant to your change, they're the ones you want to see. So make sure that you get over there and you get your prayer today. If you put a request into the prayer box, that will be prayed over throughout the week by the practitioners on duty this morning. All right, so let's stand for the closing blessing and song right now. So we say this blessing in unison together first. I now walk, so that whoever walks beside me dwells in the presence of God, and whoever places a hand in mine is lifted, and whoever thinks of me is illumined with God consciousness. For spirit and all people and I are one eternally. And so it is. And they're going to teach you a song right now.
Well, first, I just want to thank you so much for having us today. We feel so welcomed in. Yeah, and once again, we are Heart Matter, and we're a relatively new band based in Oakland. And the next time you can catch us is in San Francisco at Keys Jazz Bistro on May 16th. That's coming up in a few weeks. And our website, so we have these little cards in the back if you want to take that with you. We also have a newsletter, and that's the best way to keep in touch with us. But if you're online, you can find us at heartmattersounds.com. We're on YouTube and Instagram and all the places. So we wanted to send you away with something to keep this idea of change and imagining what is possible in mind. So it goes like this. Imagine, envision a new way. Let live, let love, let be. I want to imagine what could be unfolding, unfolding. Imagine, envision a new way. Let live, let love, let be. I want to imagine what could be unfolding, unfolding. Imagine, envision a new way. Let live, let love, let be. I want to imagine what could be
unfolding, unfolding. One more time. Now we've got it. Imagine, envision a new way. Let live, let love, let be. I want to imagine what could be. Unfolding, unfolding. We'll just repeat that part. Unfolding, 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 unfolding. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you.